everybody, and welcome to my study. And I'm delighted to welcome you here on this feast of Sunday of the Word of God. One of the great gifts that Pope Francis has given the Church is this Sunday. And he's reminded us that focusing on the Word of God is actually part of the great mission of mercy. That the great mission of mercy, of which he is such an advocate, depends upon our reading of the Word of God and our understanding of the Word of God and our taking to heart of the Word of God. And the richness and the variety and the challenge and the beauty and the encouragement that it can offer us. So thank you very much indeed to those of you who sent me some questions on this Sunday of the Word of God about different aspects of the Bible that you wanted to explore. We'll take our first question from an 11-year-old boy called Franek, who is a friend of mine and who, through his father, asked what I thought was an absolutely brilliant question. And the question was this: what is the importance of the number 3 in the Bible? Now that's actually a brilliant question, Franek. Thank you very much indeed, because it means that your eyes are open to the symbolism that lies behind so much of what we read in the Bible. Unfortunately, nowadays, we tend to take things so factually. If I say to you 3, well, then you kind of read it as a fact. But that's not exactly how the Bible works at all. That's not really how the Bible works at all. The Bible works very much more on the whole level of poetry and symbolism. And the number 3 is very important for that. Now, the number 3 right across the ancient world was important to indicate holiness. Right across the ancient world, there's stories of how 3 indicates holiness. Not just in Judaism, from which we gain our Christian Bible. That wasn't just our Jewish forebears and our older brothers in the faith from the Jewish times that gave us that sense of 3. It was right across the ancient world. In fact, our Jewish forebears, our older brothers in the faith, when they were writing the Bible, didn't really like this idea of 3 so much, because they wanted to concentrate on the fact that there was only one God. However, the number 3 allowed them to express something of the holiness of God, to poetically give people to understand what the holiness of God actually meant. Now, one of the places where I really think this becomes quite important, where we see something of that symbolism of 3, most importantly, is in the story of Abraham at the Oak of Mamre, where he has 3 visitors who come to him. These 3 visitors come, and Abraham recognizes something quite holy in them. So shall we take a read of Genesis 18 and the story of Abraham at the Oak of Mamre? The Lord appeared to Abraham by the oaks of Mamre, as he sat at the entrance of his tent in the heat of the day. He looked up and saw 3 men standing near him. When he saw them, he ran from the tent entrance to meet them. "My Lord, if I find favor with you, do not pass your servant by. Let a little water be brought and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. Let me bring a little bread, that you may refresh yourselves, and after that you may pass on, since you have come to your servant." So they said, "Do as you have said." And Abraham hastened into the tent to Sarah and said, "Make ready quickly 3 measures of choice flour, knead it and make cakes." Abraham ran to the herd and took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to the servant who hastened to prepare it. Then he took curds and milk and the calf that he had prepared and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree while they ate. They said to him, "Where is your wife, Sarah?" And he said, "There in the tent." Then one said, "I will surely return to you in due season, and your wife Sarah shall have a son." And Sarah was listening at the tent entrance behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in age. It had ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. So Sarah laughed to herself, saying, After I have grown old, and my husband is old, shall I have pleasure? Now the story of Abraham and Sarah at the oak of Mamre is important. These three strangers come, but sometimes they're regarded as three, sometimes they're regarded as one. So we have this image of holiness, an absolute holiness. And yet at the same time, we have this very, very beautiful image of something that happens very much even still in the world of the East. Part of the whole gift of hospitality is the gift of laughter. Sometimes in our mindset, we kind of think of Sarah laughing because she thinks the whole thing is ridiculous. And laughing is regarded as being sort of a sense of throwing kind of cold water on the whole story. But Sarah laughing here means that she is actually welcoming this holiness of God. Even if today, if you go to the ancient lands, many people, if they're welcoming you, they will laugh with you as a gesture of welcome. So Sarah's laughing here is a gesture of welcoming that holiness, a very deep welcoming and a gesture of hospitality to this holiness. And even though she's a little bit frightened in the end by the story of this holiness, she's conscious that it can carry her somewhere special. Where does it carry her? It carries her to the story in Genesis 21 where we see she has a son. That laughter and that welcoming of the holiness has its effect on her, and she bears Abraham a son. And we read the story in Genesis 21 of what happens when that son is born. The Lord dealt with Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had promised. Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the time of which Abraham had spoken to him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to his son, whom Sarah bore him. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Now Sarah said, God has brought laughter for me. Everyone who hears will laugh with me. And she said, Who would ever have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. I like this story very much, and I like the sense of what three means in this story. The three strangers are a powerful symbol of the holiness of God. And that holiness of God, when it is welcomed, when we offer it hospitality and laughter, brings about something beautiful and real and changes something, as it did for Abraham and Sarah. So next time you kind of count to three, 1, 2, 3, laugh a little bit. Bring about that smile that comes inside in you, because that smile is something of your welcome of the holiness of God, a welcome of that holiness that can bring about so many changes. Don't be frightened of it, but welcome it.